Hey there, this is Dave from The Greg and Dave Show. Thank you for listening to the following broadcast here on Public House Media.
Hey, it's Baxter Colburn here from Public House Media. Did you know that we just added a store here at Public House Media? No, I'm not talking about a grocery store where you can go buy apples or bananas or peanut butter, which are all fantastic, especially when peanut butter's on all of those. Anyway, we've added a store here at Public House Media so you can not only come and represent your favorite podcast network, but also represent your favorite shows as well, too. Just go over to thephmedia.com and look in the top right corner where you'll see the button that says Store. Click on that and you can search through all of our great products. Or if you go to our Facebook page, Public House Media, you can see on the left-hand side a tab that says Store. All of our products are listed there as well too. It's the new Public House Media store. You don't want to miss it. It is fantastic. Buy some of that great swag to support your favorite shows and to support Public House Media. Check it out today.
This is Sam Kirby, host of Cinema Stories here on Public House Media. Thank you for tuning into the following broadcast here on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Cinema Stories, where we talk about movie and TV news and reviews, and maybe, just maybe, we'll learn a little something about ourselves. If not, then maybe I made you laugh a couple of times. I don't know. New episodes air bi-weekly on Tuesdays. Thanks again for checking out the totally spectacular following broadcast here on Public House Media.
Hello, kiddies. Emperor Palpatine here with some bad news. Due to your galaxy's copyright infringement laws regarding merchandising, Podcast A Star Wars Story is no longer a viable name for our podcast. Now, rather than go through all the hassle of renaming our iconic podcast, this episode, episode 9, will be our final episode. That's right, just like George Lucas killed his prequel trilogy by including Jar Jar Binks, or just like Rian Johnson killed the sequel trilogy by including social justice warrior Rose, or just like Rian Johnson killed Luke Skywalker by the stupidest method ever, or just like Rian Johnson should have killed Finn's character in an epic heroic moment. Look, the point is that we have had a blast putting on this show for you all, and hope you will keep the Force in your hearts for your whole lives. May the Force be with you all. Always.
I have you now.
Welcome back to another epic edition of, I guess, no longer podcast, A Star Wars Story. This is Ezekiel Drews, and with me as always...
It's Danny Domer.
So, Danny, obviously, we'll get the elephant out of the room right away. This is not going to be a spoiler-free episode. We are actually going to be talking about the new Han Solo movie. By the way, we did choose the name for this episode, of course, to be Solo Lives, a Star Wars spoiler. So, spoiler alert, too late. For anybody who hasn't seen all the other Star Wars movies.
Just don't watch the sequel.
That's right. Wait, which sequel are we talking about at this point? There's too many to keep track of. I'm pretty sure that Han lives through a couple of those. I don't remember which one he doesn't. Just kidding. So, today we're going to be talking about the new Star Wars movie, Solo, A Star Wars Story. And like I said, so this is not going to be spoiler-free, so if this is your last chance before we get into the nitty-gritty of everything. So, this is your last chance. Turn around now. Okay.
Suckers.
You had your chance. We're moving on. So, first of all, I want to talk about the special cameo. I know it's like, everybody wants to talk about all the other stuff that happens in the movie and stuff, but I really want to talk about this one first. So, Danny, you and I both watched it on opening day.
Mm-hmm.
So, Darth Maul returns. How freaking jacked up were you seeing that?
I was pretty jacked. I'm not gonna lie. I got the goosebumps in my seat. It was really excited to see that.
It was it threw me off, honestly. But with having Paul Bettany's character have like the scars on his face and stuff, I seeing all the signs there, I think going back, if I was to rewatch it and seeing Paul Bettany, especially with the fact that he had almost like lightsaber daggers almost, that they had that electricity or whatever, similar to, it seemed like, because why would you need anything like with a red glow on a already, dagger?
Well, they were like brass knuckle, double-sided blades almost.
Exactly. Yeah, double-sided there.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a nice addition to the character, especially with the fact that Paul Bettany's character was not even supposed to be there in the first place.
Yeah,
So,
they were supposed to have a motion captured lion alien of some sort, which kind of, it's like reading about it, kind of really glad they didn't go with that.
yeah, that probably would have been a really weird way about going about it, because honestly, at this point, having seen it and hearing about what could have been, I don't really see a way that this movie could have been without having Paul Bettany playing Dren Voss.
Mm-hmm. No, that is totally true. He provided the mood for the movie. He provided the necessary bad guy material that allowed just enough of Han Solo to be scared, but to be able to move the plot along as well.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I've seen Paul Bettany play a villain like this in quite a while. I think the last time that I saw him involved with like a bad guy role was probably, I want to say it was actually with Harrison Ford back when they were doing a like a sci-fi flick about like a computer hack or something for I don't remember what movie it was, but that was the last time. I thought it was funny that he worked with Harrison Ford for that movie, and then now he was working with the new actor that replaced Ford as Han Solo for the origination movie of Han Solo.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was great to have him be able to work with both Solos in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So something that kind of bothers me a little bit, though, about the fact that for a lot of people who have only watched the movies, that to have Darth Maul just kind of come out of nowhere, I read some reviews about how they justify Darth Maul being in there, and honestly, if you think about how Darth Maul really came into the whole Star Wars franchise, he came in Episode 1,
Mm-hmm.
and then Obi-Wan bisects him.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously he cut him over the X-axis versus the Y-axis. So most people you think would, kind of die from that. And so, but what happened was in the extended universe is Darth Maul ends up going into the small screen, which usually, in terms of like how movies work and everything, you don't see that usually affect the canon, canon lore. And so just kind of like going from the big screen to the small screen, and then out of nowhere thrusting him back into the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
For the casual moviegoer, it actually creates such a really big disjointed experience for it that in order to fully understand the integration, if I didn't already know about Darth Maul having been, in the extended universe, like surviving, getting, cut in half by Obi-Wan, I would have had no idea that this was even possible. So seeing him come back, I am excited to see it, but at the same time, it's going to throw off a lot of people who are going to be like, why is Darth Maul back?
Right. Actually, I was really excited to see him come back in the movie because he was trying to build up a criminal empire during the Clone Wars, and we don't really get to see too much of that. So you really have to read into the comics, which I really think I should do, because I don't know too much of the Darth Maul story other than what's in Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. So if you want to think about it, Maul makes an appearance in Rebels too, and this movie for Han Solo is set 10 years before A New Hope. So if you really think about it, Rebels was set about 4 years before A New Hope. So if that really means that Maul is still very much alive doing his thing, and he isn't sidetracked by other Jedi in the galaxy yet.
Yeah.
And he isn't stranded on Malachor yet.
That's true. Actually, a little bit of history about Darth Maul, since you said you haven't read the comics. There's actually the explanation that they give for somebody that actually did the research in the comics is that so Darth Maul originated from the planet Dathomir.
Yeah.
And so with that, so the tie-in to like the cartoon and stuff is so during the Clone Wars, so Darth Maul, like you said, he's building up that criminal empire. And then he has some conflicts where he survives, these encounters and stuff with Darth Sidious. And then at the same time, so he also gets when he's cut in half, he actually gets surgically attached to like a scorpion body, and then he loses that body, and then he gets like some robotic legs, and then he loses those ones again, and he keeps coming back as a recurring character. And the fact of the matter is that they still have it where canonically in this, if they keep it where they've kind of brought him, back into with the into the big screen again. If you're gonna go by how it works with the big screen back into the small screen back into the big screen, and then if they're gonna keep it canonical, which is kind of what it looks like they're doing, so everybody knows that eventually Darth Maul does get killed by Obi-Wan while defending Luke, essentially. Mm-hmm. So just to see how that kind of gets integrated and how they're tying in the Solo storyline, I think that there's a lot that they can do with it, especially if they integrate that into, let's say, a Han Solo trilogy for this version, which I think would be pretty cool, especially with the fact that Han Solo's love interest, which basically he gets abandoned by her at the end of the movie because it turns out that she was evil all along.
Well, can we say she is evil to a point? She uses the ends to justify her means, and she uses people long enough just to get what she wants and is able to save those that she wants. I don't think she's like truly evil, like a Palpatine evil, but she definitely uses the ends to justify her means. So she wants to keep Solo alive, but will she want to kill him in the next movie? If there is a next movie, like what's going to happen then? We don't know.
True. I would say that just the way that they ended the movie to have Kira be a vital role in the movie and then just leave that character's, she didn't die, she's still alive, she went to go meet Darth Maul. If they don't do anything with that storyline and have that be expanded upon, it's going to be a huge waste. Just because it definitely sets up for such a way of fleshing out the character more, especially with the integration with Darth Maul. If they don't do it, I think it would be just a waste of creativity, especially because so many people were looking at this movie that I had talked to. They were looking at this movie as though it was like just a cash grab for Disney. And in all honesty, that's it's a thought that crossed my mind too. I thought, okay, well, there's not going to be anything original about this, but by integrating Darth Maul into it, it gives it a fresh sense of where this actual series could go, especially, like you said, since it's 10 years before A New Hope. If we don't see it, I said it's going to be a waste. If we do see the expansion, I'm looking forward to seeing more of it.
Yeah, this is, I think, a really good setup for seeing more of what they can do with the Han Solo character. It actually, what I was telling my wife, was it watched like reading a book. It had its highs and it had its lows, just like you would read a book. Is it like a blockbuster film, like maybe an Avengers or something, or some of the other Star Wars movies? Not exactly, but it's a good film on its own. And if you didn't see any other Star Wars movie, you wouldn't. It doesn't have as much of an effect if you hadn't seen them and you go in to watch this movie on its own.
Now, what I will say is that if you're looking at how this movie compares to some of the other Star Wars movies more recently, I would say if I was to compare it, I would say just in the same kind of and we kind of joke about it a little bit about Disney being like politically correct and stuff. But honestly, like some of the stuff that is coming out, more like the droid equality. To be honest, that stuff that's some stuff that we don't need to have forced. And I get that Disney's trying to make like a point by doing that. However, from taking like a serious topic like gender equality and saying like droid equality and stuff, I think that by making fun of it, it takes away from a legitimate point that they otherwise are just kind of dismissing through it. Because honestly, the L3 commentary and stuff, I totally lost it. I was like, wow, I'm not even interested in listening to what this character has to say, because they're putting it out there as that she's just some like radical, almost like forced feminist character. And I don't have a problem with feminism. What I have a problem with is when they're just trying to push this as though this is the most truly justified character, when there are different ways, especially with the fact that she caused mass riot and breakout and all sorts of stuff.
Right. Well, the whole point of that riot, like, in the end, it served a purpose, but that's all it did. It served a small purpose on a small scale. It didn't get anywhere beyond that. And if you want to talk about, like, politics, like, that's just kind of how people are. They make a big ruckus on a small scale, and that's all it goes, is on that small scale. Not to get into too deep a political debate, but the movie, it made its point, it made its purpose, but the L3 character after that, also serving the plot point of being able to escape the Imperial blockade from that planet, I think the character was almost useless. I mean, I don't really see Lando having an attachment to a droid like that.
No.
Like if anything, he was more attached to women.
Yeah.
Than a droid.
They build up that Lando Calrissian is this, like, he's charismatic, he's almost womanizing to, like, that's just kind of the way that, especially if you look at the Empire Strikes Back, when the Lando character was originally introduced, he comes across as, like, a womanizer. I mean, that's, the way that Billy D. Williams, portrayed the character. He actually advised Danny Glover on his way to empathize with the character and give him some pointers and stuff. But to have it, especially when Lando just says, like, I would have wiped her memory, except for the fact that she's got all these, space maps basically in her memory. Well, that just, proves the point that, literally nobody wants to listen to what she has to say, other than the fact that she has one purpose. And then once she serves that purpose, what happens? So the character dies, except for the brain, and then they stick her in the ship. Well, that just, that goes to a fact that, okay, well, she made her point, and now we kill her, and now we don't have to listen to her the rest of the movie. I mean, it's if you want to talk about, like, social structure and stuff, the way that this movie handled it, I don't think was the way to go, personally. Right.
No, it was a detractor for the whole movie. Like, if you try to force a political agenda into it, it's going to detract from it, and people are going to be lost.
It's like the Rose, from The Last Jedi, trying to force the political point about, the rich or something like that. That, there's, like I said, so Disney has a agenda with these movies and stuff. I would say if you took some of these agendas that they're trying to force into the movies, I think that they would be overall more enjoyable. Especially with if you want to have a movie where you actually talk about the social issue, make a movie about that. Don't make a movie that's supposed to be like a family friendly movie or whatever, and then stick like we're just gonna have to stick out like a sore thumb, because then you get like that. So that character sticks out, and in my mind, I'm gonna remember it, but I'm not gonna remember it positively. I'm going to remember as fondly as I remember Jar Jar Binks, to be honest.
Wow, that's fighting words. Them's fighting words. We're almost getting to fisticuffs here, man.
Oh, I get you.
Suck it for all those Jar Jar fans.
Oh, snap. Well, we had a Jar Jar fan, but then we killed her. I should say I killed her. I mean, that's technically not an admission of guilt in the court of law, because this is a fictitious podcast. I'm joking.
We're just going to leave it at that.
All right. With that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
You're on a new path. You've made some hard choices. And now that you're here, your future is assured. Hello there. I'm Emperor Palpatine. You may remember me from such notable positions as Chancellor and the Senate. Well, I'm here to get your orientation off to a good start here at the Imperial Academy. In addition to fair pay, excellent company-paid healthcare, including vision and dental, and cost-effective life insurance plans, we also reward our hardest-working recruits with advancement opportunities and recognition. Assuming you don't die horribly by rebel scum, or having your life slowly choked from you by the invisible hand of Lord Vader. As a representative of the Empire, you must remain firm and resolute in the mental programming you will be experiencing over the next 12 weeks, so that you will resist the cause of the rebellion to defect. After all, why would you give up all the wonderful benefits serving the Empire provides you to become penniless, uninsured, with nothing to gain and everything to lose? We have also recently updated our privacy policy. That is to say, we no longer have one. As a representative of the Empire, you have diodes surgically implanted in different regions of your body, designed to monitor your every biological and mental impulses, ensuring our ability to enforce our recently patented genetic reprogramming technology to ensure you obey all of your Empire's commands. We look forward to letting you exercise your free will in service to the Empire. This concludes Mandatory Mental Reprogramming Lesson 1 of 1642. Welcome to the team, Stormtrooper.
And we're back. So let's do this, Danny. From the film itself, what would you say was your favorite part that you enjoyed the most with the movie?
I'd say my favorite part would have to be when Han meets up with the gang that he lands with. So he meets his mentor, he frees Chewie, which, by the way, was a great scene, freeing Chewie and just talking Wookiee for a little bit. And I'm jealous I can't do that. But and then that trolley scene, just going at it with those pirates, so to speak. That was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that.
I'm not sure how they pronounce it. Was it Injust Nest or something like that?
Something like that. I don't know. It's super funky. Yeah. Super weird.
Some of the pronunciations of some of the stuff they brought up in the movie were a little awkward.
I did appreciate the way that the Falcon had evolved from, like, when you first see it in the movie to, like, 20 or 10, 20 years later to, like, when you see it in The Force Awakens, because gone are the little single turrets. You get quad lasers. You get Han Solo destroyed that dish on that ship when he was in that asteroid field. And so, Lando had to repay him in kind in the Death Star run, and that it had to get replaced again for The Force Awakens. I feel like that's just a recurring joke, and I really appreciated that one.
You could make some, especially because of the satellite dish getting destroyed, that you could make the joke about, like, satellite TV or something. Like, it always goes out when, a Death Star explodes or something.
I really feel like they want cable rather than satellite. They just, something about cable. It's all wired.
A lot of people are just cutting the cord, and I think that was, a subliminal message. I think, from what I could tell, that Disney's like, hey, our new streaming service is coming out,
What I really want to know, though, if we're going to talk about the Falcon a little bit, is what was that cargo space that was in between the two prongs at the front of the ship? So it was all one piece, and what looked like a cargo space was in between the two prongs, and that got destroyed after they went through that Maw cluster. and onto that planet. So, like, I want to know what the purpose of that was, because in the extended universe, they just moved large freight ships. Like, it didn't serve any other purpose other than connecting to a large freighter.
Yeah. So. I'll be honest, I'm not sure. I don't really think about that specifically. I think what I was probably paying a lot more attention to is the fact that they keep... So you see them always taking these... for the stuff that they're smuggling. So where they were... Was it chromium? Or whatever?
I don't even know.
I remember what the material was called. The super highly explosive device for powering spaceships and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think it was chromium, but I could be wrong. But they kept taking, like, where they put everything, so they had, like, the storage spaces. And I was just like, okay, so is that their normal cargo hold? Or, you know, where did they normally put all these things? And how did they just happen to have the exact right dimensions for these...
Well, okay, so you got to know the anatomy of the Falcon a little bit, or the General YT-1300s.
Well, I did not take the Millennium Falcon biology class, okay?
Oh my gosh, most sexy class you ever take in your life. So they keep referring to Millennium Falcon as a girl. Is that because of L3 getting put in there, or is it because that is a very good question, and that raises a lot of other serious concerns about, you know, her equality for droids. But
do you think that she would have fought for ship equality?
She might have.
Or do you think she's just full of shit at this point?
She might be full of shit. I mean, yeah. She's carrying a lot of extra weight around. She's a freighter. So
are you saying that after she became a droid feminist that she gained a lot of weight? And no, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right,
I'm just going to let you finish that one.
This is going too far. I'm pretty sure we just alienated some of our base.
I'm sorry. No, that was a good pun. You're talking to a dad here and one whose initials spell dad, so you're just in for the ride. Just leave it at that. But the anatomy of the Millennium Falcon includes a generous cargo hold, but where they were placing those, I don't want to say chromium, rhydonium, Asmantium, whatever you want to call it.
Did you say Admantium?
Yes, I did.
Because, I mean, that's a different Disney...
That's a different
future
universe.
Disney franchise
that
Disney's in the middle of acquiring.
Adamantium.
Speaking of evil merchandising, just kidding. Please don't stop making Marvel movies. Amen.
Yeah, no, Disney. Marvel's good. So, the cargo spaces that those were in, though, was only used for smuggling purposes. So they had a legitimate cargo space for general freight, and then he had the smuggling compartments. I mean, Han even said in A New Hope, I only use these for smuggling. I don't know why I'm putting myself in one of these. Mm-hmm. Like, they just got away with it. So it makes sense, because if they got boarded, I mean, they were going to go a legitimate way out of Kessel, and they couldn't. And so it was a moot point to put him in there at the end. But like, if they had gone that way and they got boarded, if it was in the general cargo hold, they probably would have been confiscated right away.
Yeah. Honestly, one of the things that I wish, I know that they did the Kessel Run and everything, but I wish that, so they planned for, what was it, 11 or 12 containers or something of the chromium. Mm-hmm. But what would have been more interesting is the fact that, so they only planned for that amount, but they could have probably taken more. And so the fact is that, so they had enough that they were going to take that back, but if they had actually had an extra amount, they would have had an extra amount that they could have, either, especially because of how explosive it is, which we see in the beginning of the movie, essentially. Mm-hmm. Well, not the beginning, but you know what I mean, where a whole mountain explodes from the chromium. If they would have had that, they could have used that to help with, especially with that Imperial blockade. It still would have kept them from going there, but it would have been something that they could have taken out a big, Imperial cruiser. Mm-hmm. I think that would have been a cool thing that would have helped establish Han as an outlaw from the Imperials, and solidified that a bit more versus just him getting pursued essentially just by some TIE fighters through the Kessel space.
Right. I think for Han being an outlaw, what we just know is that he's a deserter. Mm-hmm. And that really doesn't serve a purpose for an outlaw. You just, okay, so you've got a deserter. How many deserters did the Empire have on a regular basis?
I'm sure plenty.
Plenty, exactly. Especially during a middle of a war, which Han was on.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't really buy into the fact that he's an outlaw yet. Like, you don't really know that until A New Hope. So, in the span of the 10 years, I want to know more about what happens, especially with his trilogy gets cut from the extended universe.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of the trilogy that we're hoping is going to happen, so Aldenreich is signed on for a total of 3 pictures.
Sweet.
So he's for sure, obviously, with the one that just came out, but the other 2 in the capacity. If they make him a trilogy, I think it'll go well, especially if they have, if they bring back Lando for it, if they, whatever they do. But I think that if they utilize him correctly, so doing 2 more anthology films with Han as the focus to help, I think we had talked a little bit about this, maybe off mic, but we talked about the fact that Han isn't necessarily as hard a character yet as he is when he shows up in the cantina in Mos Eisley in A New Hope. So, and I was thinking that essentially, in order to get him closer to that, because all it is at the end of the movie is that he's just kind of, abandoned, and so his mentor, Woody Harrelson's character, he ends up shooting him, shooting him first. He shot him first again.
Yep.
So that starts, his lineage, essentially, of shooting first. So I think that would be a great ongoing joke, especially with the fact that it would be a nice, poke at George Lucas for doing the remaster where he shot second.
Dumbest thing ever.
Horrible. Can't believe they did that. But I think if they do that, that would actually be a great poke at that, just so that way we have that kind of theme going on. But at the same time, just talking about so Han's relationship with Kira is challenged throughout the entire movie, and you see the lingering, desire for her to, have that romance, but she even says, we can't, blah, blah, blah. And she knows, and that's why at the end, when she leaves, Han doesn't necessarily look heartbroken in a way that I would normally, because he just kind of stares off, and it's not like he's inconsolable or anything.
Right.
I don't see the true heartbreak. I think that especially to set up with his future, romance with Leia, I think what would make the most sense is that if during the eventual confrontation that Han would have with her, that he would end up having to choose between something and her, and that the final time that Han shoots first in that trilogy would be to shoot her. I think that...
Oh, that's just sent chills down my spine.
To make him that harder character, to set him up for the encounter in Mos Eisley, where he's just kind of devil may care attitude and stuff towards everything. And I think that would be, in my opinion, what would help set him apart.
Ron Howard, if you're listening, we love you. Please take this into consideration. Or pass it along, please. No, I really do believe that. It'll be a good series if they can pull it off, and if they will leave the political agenda alone, that's just not needed.
Yeah, focus on the actual story. Don't just shoehorn, random stuff in. We love Star Wars. We want you guys just to focus on making it as great a Star Wars story as it possibly can be.
Well, think about it. The people love classic stuff. So the original trilogy is classic, and it's classic for a reason. Part of that is that it's timeless. There's no political agenda in it other than pulling various parts of former political agendas to make a general story. But there's no current political agenda in the original trilogy. And so when you get to the new stuff and you start adding it, then it's going to look dated and it's going to look terrible. Yep. And I think that's why people don't like new stuff so much, because there's just too much of that. And there's not enough originality to it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
The Kessel Run was pretty good. I had imagined it the way that was in the Extended Universe book series, so it was a little bit of a different take for me. But I did appreciate the way that they pulled it off. It did take away a little bit from Han's ability, as you were saying earlier, his credibility of the official Kessel Run itself.
Yeah, essentially. So my thoughts about that were, if we're looking at, especially with Hans Bosny, when he says in A New Hope, he says it's the ship that made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we take that and just kind of analyze, if it normally takes, and they said it normally takes like 20 parsecs or something. So, because I've heard a lot of people say, is that a measure of time or is that a measure of distance? And so, if you're looking at both of that, it comes across more as time with the way that this movie showed up. Because if you're talking about like the Kessel Run, let's say he did in 12 parsecs, you could say that's a distance because of the fact that they cut through the maw in order to get to the, to get out of there, because they went into the uncharted territory. Mm-hmm. If you say, hey, it's a measure of time because, hey, they had to make sure that they weren't going to blow up, I mean, that's another way that you can interpret it too. So I don't have personally, I could probably look it up and see there's probably an official version.
You're talking to me here. It is a unit of distance. It's not a unit of time. And so, like, when you're talking about, like, you're right, time was against them, so they had to get somewhere fast. And so they had to cut through that distance to shorten the time to get there. But a parsec, if you talk to any astronomer, it's going to be a unit of distance. And any Star Wars fan worth their salt, unless they the ones that really.
I like how you're giving me a backhanded insult here.
I'm sorry.
I'm like,
I guess
I should be totally offended, but I realized that I made a mistake when I talked about.
I mean,
so when I'll let it go this time.
Okay, you're more of a Marvel guy.
I am more of a Marvel guy, but I love Star Wars.
And I'm more of a Star Wars guy by trade. And I say that by a lot. I've been here since I was 3 years old. Just shoot me first, why don't you? But
boom! Han got you. Just
but a parsec is a unit of distance. Gotcha. And if you want very nice and credible Star Wars fans to be able to listen to our podcast, we got to be able to stick to what is the general consensus and not the newbie way of spreading lies and rumors and Emperor Palpatine terrible ways of explaining things.
Did you ever hear the tale of the parsec, the short?
Is it possible to learn this power?
Yeah, no, not really.
Yeah, but overall, it was pretty good. I can't say it was mind blowing because I knew what was going to happen. I mean, we all if you know the Star Wars story, you know what's going to happen. If you don't know the Star Wars story, then you might be surprised at some points. But overall, it's a pretty decent film. I'd rank it as my second favorite after Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, I get you. I would say, in terms of my favorite film still is probably Revenge of the Sith, and I promise you, it has nothing to do with Hayden Christensen, and everything to do with Ian McGregor. And honestly, because he made the Obi-Wan character for me in our generation,
right.
And but I would say that if I was going to rank this in terms of overall, I would say I still probably feel. It's hard to say. I like the Han Solo character, but at the same time, there's probably just something that I'm maybe missing, because I think in terms of the Star Wars movies, I would probably give it a solid 8.5 out of 10 for the way that I would rank a movie. Now, again, this is coming from the guy who gave Black Panther an 8 out of 10, and so many people thought it was the best movie that had ever come out. So I don't want to be too strict, but at the same time, I think that, taking everything into consideration, what they did, all the twists and turns, making it a new spin on a heist movie with, a space opera, I think that, they did really good for it. I didn't really hate anything other than maybe just some of the way that they took the L3 character. But at the same time, that's one of that kind of shoehorn of a character is one of the reasons that I didn't really care as much for Phantom Menace, because I thought in Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan and there made the movie, but you had Jar Jar Binks that took that movie down. So I would just say anytime that Star Wars brings in some incredibly annoying character just for the sake of putting in some kind of agenda or something, I think it's always going to take it down from, in my opinion, if they had not had that character in there, I probably would have rated it higher, to be honest.
Fair enough. I mean, that's cool. I was ready to watch it again, back to back. I even said it out loud to the theater people, play it again! Because I really just want to... Honestly, my favorite character in the Han Solo movie was not Han Solo, even though he is my favorite Star Wars character. It was actually the Lando.
You like Donald Glover's Lando?
Oh my goodness, he was fantastic. He looked the part. He acted the part, aside from the L3 love triangle thing going on there. But he was everything I had imagined in the books. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
I went in with high expectations, and I came out expectations fulfilled.
Definitely. I would say that my favorite character, unfortunately, also was not Han Solo in the movie. Mine was probably... I'm going to have to go with Woody Harrelson's character.
Oh, he was good.
Because, honestly, he had big boots to fill, because if you had to take Han Solo from being the non-smuggler type and have him look up to somebody and have the big shoes to fill in order to make it really realistically believable about somebody who would actually take a young, kid and show him the ways of smuggling and stuff, I would say, Woody Harrelson, he's one of my favorite actors, I would say, because I liked him for the Hunger Games. I've liked him in Zombieland and stuff. And I think that any role that he comes to, he comes fully enveloped into the character. And I think that he was able to really bring the necessary part to add that incredible value to the movie. And I don't want to shortchange Paul Bettany's character either. Paul Bettany was amazing in that role.
Of course.
And it was great to see him especially just come in at the last minute in order to help with rescuing basically what probably would have been another weird character, especially if it was supposed to be a motion capture.
I think the mocap person to go with is going to be Andy Serkis.
Probably.
Because he's the most well-versed in it.
But they already used him for Snoke.
They already used him for Snoke. And for whatever reason, they had to kill him off right away. So
that's a story for another time.
Are you nerds still talking about Star Wars again?
I mean, I'm really sick of this, and I really feel like I gotta break out of this for a moment. Someone needs to die.
What?
And I'm sick. I'm sick. That's it.
No.
That's it.
Don't use your hate.
Here's my lightsaber.
No.
We're just. Sorry. See ya.
Danny, that's my wife. No.
I had to earn your respect somehow.
But
Yeah, rule of two, Sith. Yeah, just deal with it.
No.
I'd say to trust your feelings, but I don't know what to do at this point because I'm kind of feeling irritated. You killed all these people. You didn't listen to me, and now I had to kill somebody to get your attention, and I hate killing people, but you didn't give me a choice. What else did you expect?
You're supposed to be the good one between the two of us.
I usually am. But she was brandishing a ladle and a blaster in the other hand.
What?
And
you look. That,
I didn't know whether she was going to be cooking me something or she was going to kill me right off on the spot.
you know, unlike her, she wasn't going to shoot you first, and instead you. Now I need to find the antibacterial wipes, and this is not.
Yeah, I'm going to leave the mess for you to clean up. You
Yeah,
cleaned up
you know
all the
what?
other messes.
This is the last time that I'm inviting you over in person. Like, the next time, I'm just going to use the holocron, okay? That's it. I can't deal with this, Danny, okay?
Well.
Like, you keep trying to steal when I am, like, trying to enforce the rule of two, but, because my wife bursts in the door, you're going to kill her now? Like...
What do you expect?
You know what? Know your role, son.
I had to get your attention. I got it.
Alright, well, from now on, I will show you the respect that you deserve now that you've taken
right.
your step towards the dark side of the Force.
You killed the good doctor, you killed the Jar Jar lover, you killed the lightsaber
Okay, the
guru.
Jar Jar lover deserved it, okay? Alright?
See, that's what I'm talking about.
You know what?
Oops, it looks like I might have activated the self-destruct on our ship here, Danny. I hope you enjoyed your time co-hosting with me, because as of in T-minus, 10 seconds, you and I are going to be out of a job. It's time to say goodbye, Danny! Goodbye forever!
Time to say goodbye. Horizons are never far. Would I have to find them alone? Without true light of my own with you, I will go. On ships overseas that I now know. No, they don't exist anymore. It's time to say goodbye. So with you, I will go. On ships overseas that I now know. Don't exist anymore. It's time to say goodbye. So with you, I will go.